thank you for joining me. This will be a completely spoiler-free for the show review of the 2020 show Helstrom. I may spoil MCU and adjacent leading up to, but not including any of this show in this video. If you are interested, I have, in such, I have recorded a video talking about each individual episode based on having watched that far into the show. And the link to the playlist with these videos will be in the description box. So, this is one of those... Let's see. If this was like... one of the last of the Marvel TV shows before they, nowadays they do shows and such for Disney Plus. And so they've completely stopped doing these TV ones. And yeah, this was meant to be part of a bigger thing. There was going to be like, is that a spoiler? You can, if you want the details, you can read about it. But I've read reviews of this where they say that it shows in a bad way. That's the only reason I bring it up. That this is the last, or one of the last. I can never remember. I mean, I guess technically after this, each of the shows were streaming. None of them were TV. But was this? I think this... I don't remember if this was TV or not, and my wrists are too sore to check right now. I just realized I completely forgot to mention, so I already mentioned the... yeah. Other than what I've already said, the show is rated TVMA, so will this video be? And yeah, I fucking love this show. Like, I really did try to look, at it as like I thought that it was not gonna be that good because there's a number of reviews that say that it isn't. But I gotta say, going over the show, like, it's almost all yes, almost no no's, by which I mean that the amount of times that the word no came to mind compared to yes is slim to nil. Not that it has a significantly reduced sense of smell. And I'm going to address some of the criticisms, including some that I did agree with, over the course of this video. So I think before I get too far into this, because this is something where I know, and I do understand, a lot of people are going to immediately jump ship the moment that I say, while I haven't read the comic that this is based on, I do understand that this is in some ways a loose adaptation. It takes a lot of the elements that are there in the comic and change them to fit what the... from what I've heard of the comic, it doesn't sound like it would ever have fit for this. I'm not saying you can't make an adaptation of it. I'm sure it's possible, but it wasn't really, yeah, it just didn't fit this kind of thing. And I don't think that they changed it in a way that, like, as soon as you, these days, as soon as you say, oh, this is not a direct adaptation, you have chuds coming out the woodwork saying, oh, they made it woke. It definitely, there are a number of progressive aspects of this show. For example, it has empathy, and nobody forced the Republican Party to abandon empathy. That's a choice they made, and continue to, they just dig deeper and deeper. Yeah. And that's a huge part of why we're in, all the problems we have today are because of a lack of empathy from people with power. And people continuing to vote them into power. And I'm not saying everybody who votes for them has no empathy. Clearly, some of them were worried about economics. Anyway, which is also, we got to do something about all these lies not being properly confronted when someone is running for office. Maybe there needs to be something people need to have more of an impact on what an elected official can do if they're going against what they said they would do to get elected, in my opinion. Anyway, the question is, does the show have the edge of the comic? And again, I can't say if it's exactly as much, but it definitely has significant, like this is a show that has, like, I think, was it every episode? I think it's more or less every episode has at least one incredibly fucked up thing, and arguably, let's go with a lot of the episodes, the fucked up thing will actually be even more fucked up than the things we saw in previous episodes. I think that might just about cover that. So, yeah, the setup here, basically, the Helstrom siblings experienced significant tragedy when they were kids, and 20 years later, they don't see each other very much, and something forces them to have to try to work together. Yeah, I do not think I want to give away exactly what. I'll just say it is supernatural in nature. The psychological accuracy, authenticity, and level of detail are incredible here. And this actually manages to tackle some very complex subjects with just a wealth of, again, empathy and, like, actually understanding these issues, which, like, too often these, complex topics are brought up in media that doesn't really understand them and thinks that, oh, well, you just gotta tut and say, don't do that. No, you have to actually change the, yeah. You have to address the circumstances under which those things happened. But, yeah, I think that covers that. So the tone, I thought they did a really great job of, it has some, like, there's some what's the word, like, supernatural, this kind of investigation, that's it, supernatural investigation kind of thing going on here, and the yeah, it occasionally has MCU style jokes, but I definitely don't think it ruins it. There aren't so many, and they tend to be, like, it tends to be like gallows humor or cynicism and stuff like that, rather than just like cutesy jokes. That'll remind the kids that, don't worry, you're not going to feel too much of an emotion in this. I love a lot of the MCU, or most of the MCU, nearly all of the MCU, but I definitely will acknowledge there is a problem. There were years where they kept undermining proper emotional moments. But recently they've gotten a lot better at it. But yeah. And this show does at times get really, really dark and fucked up. And let's see. Yeah, the dialogue is also great. There are a lot of very carefully drawn characters. We get a sense of who all of them are, in part from their words, how they express things, and what they say in certain circumstance. The direction is quite strong. I never felt like they lost track of the various plot threads, which is impressive because there are a bunch of things going on here. And yeah, I was just deeply emotionally engaged from the very start to the very end. I think that is, yeah, this is a good time to talk about. So I've seen some say that they felt like the show Supernatural did a better job than this. I have not watched nearly enough of that to make a comparison. I don't know, half a dozen episodes maybe. I watched it when it happened to be on sometimes. But I don't have any problem with watching that show. Uh, yes, and in general, others have said that it's too generic. I don't watch that many of these shows, so I cannot comment on that. I can imagine that might be true. Certainly, other corners of the MCU, they don't do quite enough to make it their own. They just kind of appeal to, well, you like this elsewhere, so let's do it again. So, yeah, if that's going to be a deal breaker for you, I'm not the right person to say whether or not it's accurate. I pretty much I watched this because I'm watching everything Marvel. Um, yeah, I have a mixed when it comes to me watching stuff that's supernatural. Like there was a while where I really struggled to get into it because I don't believe any of this. I have come to a point where I don't think it's wrong to believe, as long as you don't let it convince you to do things that are clearly evil. And that's, sometimes I'll hear about, oh, this particular, let's see, what was it that the shit, do I want to say, because is that a spoiler? I'll just say that one of the best supernatural horror movies ever made was apparently not sufficiently Christian or Catholic or something for at least one person. So I forget if they made it themselves or they had someone else make it, but that's how we got another supernatural horror movie. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like, I watched that movie. I fucking love the original one of those. And I'm like, that wasn't enough for you? How could it could scarcely be more on your side. But conservative Christians are never satisfied, no matter what you do. Bigots in general, never satisfied. You have to, get them out of bigotry in conservative Christianity. But I repeat myself. And then, they can get to a place where they can be happy again. But nothing that someone they're bigoted towards does will ever be enough. It enrages them even more. Remember, there was a while where white conservatives kept saying, oh, well, why can't black people become rich on their own? White people can. And then we started seeing a bunch of black people become, still, obviously, poverty is still a huge problem for African Americans as well as white Americans. It's a class issue. It's ridiculous that we're fighting amongst ourselves. I'm not telling any black person who hates white people that they're wrong, because sadly, a lot of white people have done truly, truly terrible things to black people. Slavery was fucking monstrous. And I despise this thing of like, oh, be careful, black people are violent and rapists. No, that's what the slave owners, the white people who treated black people as property, they were violent rapists. And it's just, every accusation is a confession when it comes to conservative, far right people criticizing us on the left, and minorities. But yeah, the um, God damn it, digressions. Let's see. The yeah. Okay. I think we're just gonna have to move on. Let's see. So I was talking about the yes, that's part of why I haven't watched. There's a bunch of supernatural horror, which I've heard great things about that I just haven't watched. Some of the time it's just because it hasn't been on sale, but some of them it's because some of the worst people I've ever heard of have said that it needs to be even more angry and just yeah. Anyway, I'm not I'm not the right person to say whether this is generic as a I mean what I can say is I do try to watch a lot of shows streaming TV and such, um, including from recent years, and I do hold this in very high regard. I think it is one of the yeah, it's incredible, um, and I think that might pretty well cover that. So let's talk cinematography and editing are very, very impressive. There are a number of camera angles and little cuts that are just, yeah, uh, fucking astonishing. There's this thing of like, um, I realize I haven't even named them, I don't think. So the Helstrom siblings are Damon and Anna. And Anna has she's had a bad experience in the past with the let's see, church/mental hospital where Damon grew up and now works. And there are shots where she'll be outside of that church, and they film it. It's let's see, I think they call it frog's eye view. Very camera very low to the ground, and making this church just look huge. She seems so small compared to it. And like, obviously, yeah, there's some objective reality to the fact that obviously a person is smaller than a building, kind of required for the building to do its job well. But even so, and it's specifically for her. It's not for when other people enter the church. So I think I'm not sure I want to give too much else away. I'll as for editing, I noted that some really hated. There's these flashbacks that on more than one occasion they'll cut back to, and yeah, on more than one occasion they'll cut to flashbacks, and sometimes they will use the same footage more than once, and some people really hated that, and I don't really agree. I don't. I mean, see, the thing is, when they do that, like sometimes there was at least once where the first time they showed it, it went by so fast that you couldn't really make out much. Like you just got a bad vibe off it. And then the next time they showed it, you had some context, or maybe you saw a little bit more of it and you came to understand what actually happened. And, sometimes it would cut to something that, yeah, we'd already seen, but now there was like a different emotion to it. So, yeah, I thought it worked perfectly. And I can be critical of that sort of thing if it's done badly. I do think the first Hunger Games movie showed the flashbacks too often, and part of what it was there was like, I get that it's the thing is they couldn't show it in continuity because it happens before the events of um and it works in the book because it's being described to us. It doesn't have to be happening right now. So they need to do something. I appreciate that, but I don't think they handle it very well. And yeah, ultimately part of it is like, yeah, it's important. We need to see it, but it doesn't warrant being shown multiple times like that. And there's not quite enough of like, oh, now the context is different, unlike this show. Like, hypothetically, this show should do a worse job, if anything, because it has much more, a much longer running time. It's 10 episodes. Some are like an hour or close to it. So, you know, yeah. Um, but yeah, and there are some really glorious cuts where a character will say something and then it'll cut to a different scene or something, and like basically it'll be underlined, like someone will say something like, this is going to go really badly, and then it cuts to, oh, that went really badly, kind of thing. I love every single episode of this show. Let's see. I've seen some say that they felt like there was too big a discrepancy between certain episodes, and it is like there were, like, I want to say 12 writers for 10 episodes, and it is one of those things where it's um let's see, I think it was science fiction with uh Damian Walter, I think is his name, who pointed out, prestige television has fewer writers, and each of them is just incredibly talented. Whereas, it used to be on TV, a bunch of, like if they have to do 23 episodes to a season, they would have a greater number of writers, and they would be, good or just average writers, and that would show. And yeah, I am not disputing the talent of the writers. Here, I think it is more I just wanted to acknowledge, when you have a lot of writers, that can be a problem in and of itself. And it is, yeah, the criticism that was specifically pointed to in the review I read was that they have two different ideas of what the show should be. And I do see some of that. I just don't think it's enough to like make the show just genuinely not work. And yeah, every single episode had me really, really, emotionally engaged and excited for more. It's too bad we're probably never going to get another season. I don't know that it's popular enough. Like obviously we are getting some. The Daredevil is now on Disney Plus, as is The Punisher. Let's see. I think, does that pretty well bring us to the um I feel like there was something else I wanted to say about that. I do think that some of the based on the reviews I read, some of the people who did not really get into the show, it's because they didn't really, like, the characters didn't really work for them. Because, like I said, I saw at least one person say it's just this family drama, and it's like, yeah, you're welcome. I mean, that's like, I'm sorry, I was more invested in the family drama. The supernatural stuff was great, but overall, like, I'm sorry, if this had the same supernatural stuff but without the family drama, I probably, like, would have kept watching, because you know I made the decision to, I'm gonna watch all of these. But I would have been less invested. The characters are the heart and soul of this show. The tar pumping heart and black soul of the show are very much these characters. And yeah, if you don't care about them, and I will I will acknowledge, the introduction is not, I don't know, I think a lot of the way it gets it right, I think there's at least one or two characters that in their introduction they get slightly short shrifted. But I don't know. I think if you give it 3 episodes, if by then you are just not invested in these characters, yeah, I'm not sure anything for the rest of the show is going to change your mind. Production value is very, very high. It feels expensive. There's such a great number, variety, and quality of sets and locations. Costumes and makeup, and all of them say something about the people and places, and the number of extras and such. Yeah. And yeah, there's also some of the costumes and makeup stuff. It's just so fucking good. Like, Anna has a very specific taste. I feel like there's probably a bunch of young women who took inspiration from her sense of style. And that brings us to the music. A lot of it is composed specifically for the show, and it works incredibly well. It always fits what we're seeing, and there's some really, really great scenes and pieces of music that are so incredibly tense and suspenseful that, like, you're on the edge of your seat. And the show also likes its needle drops. A lot of episodes, maybe every episode, ends with, a needle drop, some of which are like in contrast to what we've just seen. So something bad will happen, and then they'll play a really upbeat piece of music, for example. Yeah, the sound design is incredible, and it's one of those things, if you're going to have supernatural like this, sound design is crucial. You want to make it feel otherworldly, but legible to an audience as, for example, evil, or at the very least supernatural. It like, hypothetically, if it felt like, well, that's not supernatural, that's extraterrestrial, then you fucked up. Yeah. So the characters, I really appreciate how complex the major characters are. There's at least one character who I genuinely wasn't sure was going to get very much in that regard, and by the end I was like, wow, that was, yeah. And yeah, they do a really great job of some of them, they'll present one way, but they'll be hiding something, and that takes really subtle acting, and they absolutely nail it. And it also helps that some of the characters go through so much growth over the course of the season. That was also, like, I think some of the reviews didn't watch that far. And, like, I don't love when people leave reviews for something where they didn't watch the whole thing. But certainly if you are going to, tell us how much you fucking watched, because some of these reviews, like, no, like, you must have only watched, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes to be writing that about the show, and not, like, having, like, a parenthesis, well, they do grow, just, yeah. I totally get, like, listen, if the show, if the characters hadn't grown, I would have been really, really sick of their fucking shit by the end of it, by the end of this season. So the pacing, like, Marvel, Netflix, Marvel, the Defenders verse, the, Daredevil and the other shows on Netflix, that are thankfully now available on Disney Plus. Yeah, they well, last I fucking checked, Jesus. It's annoying how shit leaves streaming services. Anyway, those shows, it was basically only there were 2 seasons that had shorter seasons. Let's see. I think I can never remember which had which, but let's go with Defenders had 8, and the second season of Iron Fist had 10. Or maybe it's the other way around. But those 2 seasons were shorter. All the other seasons were 13 episodes each, and every single season had at least one episode where it's like, this episode would have been, the stuff that's in here would have been put in other episodes, and you would have trimmed other stuff down if you had not been ordered to produce 11 episodes and no less, 13 episodes and no less, and yeah, with this one, there's a little bit of that. I don't think it's hit as hard because every episode has a lot of really great character stuff. So it would have felt rushed if this only had 9 episodes, But I will say there were a couple of times where the plot would move in a way where it was like, okay, that could have been resolved quicker if you didn't have to make specifically 10 episodes. The special effects, I think I want to start with the positive. The practical effects are fucking amazing. There's some real incredible stuff here. Like some of this gore and violence. Jesus Christ. I do not understand people who say that this is not scary or yeah. And the I also thought they did a good job of spreading it out enough because like I'm a gore hound. I can handle anything you throw at me gore wise. I still appreciate like if they had tried to cram this into a shorter running time, it would have been like, okay, you know what, I need a break. I need to like go look at Reddit for adorable puppies or something to wind back down from this, With that said, there are times when they rely on CG, and I don't blame them because they had to for at least some of this. There's simply no way. Okay, in the 1980s, it might have been done with some would have chosen to do it with stop motion, but that I love the charm of stop motion. I appreciate that it's largely fallen in our favor because it is not photorealistic. Like you can always tell that you're looking at stop motion, So yeah, they went for CG, and there are times where it looks just absolutely breathtaking. But then there are a bunch of times where it's like, it's not when it was made, because 2020, like we had photorealistic CG. Although sometimes with Marvel, they'll push the animators too hard and keep changing their mind and release a movie, and some people will blame the animators, which is like, Jesus Christ, do you have any idea how hard those people fucking work? But I can imagine budget and maybe also time, and you know, I already mentioned this was like the last. Yeah, I think the next several shows, because this is not the very last that isn't MCU can. Like today, they barely do they make anything that's not canon. I'm not. I think if it's not canon to the main universe, it's some other part of the multiverse. You know. So um, they made after this. There's Hitmonkey and MODOK, but those were streaming. So considering that they knew that this wasn't gonna be, you know, yeah, they were gonna axe this thing. Yeah, I can imagine they probably didn't want to devote that much money to something that they weren't going to keep making. They could have hypothetically. Um, but I do appreciate that there are times where they'll cut around the CG a bunch, which probably is also in part budgetary, but they'll not show it for so long in a row that you realize, yeah, that the it not being super convincing is yeah. But it is also one of those things, like, I don't think the show would have worked completely if they hadn't shown these things. I'm not sure there's any instance where they use CG where I felt like, well, you shouldn't have shown that at all. And I'm very much one of those. I believe very much in the old adage of um, less is more. You don't want to show too much. Um, yeah, I think that pretty well covers. So yeah. Some have said that this does not have a lot of action, and maybe the comic does. I have to say, personally, I never got the vibe that it was trying to be an action show. Like, it's not that there's no action at all, but like, if that's what you're here for, this is not the show for you. Based on what I watched of Supernatural, I think Supernatural might be the show for you. From what I recall, that has a good amount of action. This was never trying to, and I don't really know what within the show made anyone think that it was going to. Um, I don't know. I mean, some people expect everything that's based on a comic book to have action. And again, maybe the comic has action, but I thought they made it absolutely clear from frame one, this is not an action show. This is supernatural horror fantasy. Yeah. And I thought they did a really great job exploring multiple sources of terror, not staying on the same one for too long. Like, one of them is demonic possession, but that is absolutely not where they stop going for shit that really fucks with our lizard brain. And yeah, I was very happy with it. It's one of those things you got to be careful not to go too far, because if you end up just having, yeah, too many sources of terror, then it ends up feeling like, well, they can maybe start cannibalizing each other. It can start like, I forget who said it, but I definitely agree that anything that can be scary can also be funny if you push it far enough. And I think they did a really solid job here. It never became funny to me. The jokes were funny, and there were not so many of them that it derailed it. But yeah, I do really appreciate that they did go in a bunch of different directions here. I mean, as soon as Disney got their hands on Marvel, like obviously, fuck Disney. They need to treat their employees better. They need to stand up to Trump more. Stop removing content that's trans affirming. But yeah, they want to make money, so they figured, well, if we try for a bunch of different groups, audiences, yeah, we're more likely to get a lot of money. And I think they did a good job here. And it is also one of those things like, yeah, for those who don't know, like, I know a lot of people think, oh, comic books, that's just like superheroes. There was a while where it was a lot of it was horror. So I don't watch Linkar anymore. I actually forget why I stopped watching him. Anyway, he used to do, I don't know if he still does, this Halloween show called Long Box of the Damned, where he would talk about horror comics, and yeah, like there's a ton of incredible horror comics. And yeah, I think there is something interesting here. And recently on Disney Plus, the MCU has started doing more horror stuff. So hopefully they'll keep going in that direction. And yeah. If one thing to keep in mind, the very ending of this does suggest that they did think, and apparently, let's say, the show hadn't been canceled when they were making the last episode. It was only after it aired that it got canceled. The last episode does tease a potential season 2, which now it looks like we might never get. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, hypothetically, I guess you could just stop watching, yeah, near the very, very end of the finale. With that said, it does conclude every major conflict, or at the very least, by the end of the finale, the conflict has been so significantly changed that it doesn't feel like, oh, it doesn't feel unresolved. Yeah. And I think it handles well. So I already mentioned it's TVMA, so it does have violence and gore. I already mentioned that somewhat, but yes, I do think that it handles it incredibly well. It's one of those things you have to be careful not to. If you don't go too far enough, then a lot of gorehounds are going to be like, come on, I can watch something with more gore than this. But if you do go really far, it's going to end up feeling like, okay, come on, like, okay, gorehounds might still be, but they do also want some mainstream audience for this. I think they handle it. They balance it incredibly well. It never gets to a point where it just feels like, okay, this is just mean-spirited and nasty, and I don't really want to keep watching it, kind of thing. Yeah, I think that might just about. I am not going to get too much into the sexuality on the show. I will just note, it has not just one, but I don't want to say exactly how many, but I'll say more than one character on the show is LGBTQIA+, which is wonderful. The community definitely deserves more positive representation, and this does not judge them. I'm not a member myself. I try to be a good ally. I don't say that because I'm worried that people are going to think that I'm a member. I just don't want, any member who comes across this video to think that I am and to be like watching me because they think I am and then feel let down when they realize I'm not. That's all. But yeah, it is non-judgmental of the community. It is just acknowledging, well, they exist, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. And at the same time, at least one of those characters on the show, who's a member of the community, gets to be complex, Yeah. I don't want to say if it's the only one, but the character of Anna is bi or pan, and yeah, there's no shaming of it. It's just another trait of her character. She also has dark hair. Like, it's not something that makes her inherently worse. Okay, hair color is a bad example. There are other aspects. She is also a woman. It is something that it's part of who she is, but it's not inherently bad. Yeah. But yeah, she gets to be complex. It's one of those things. Misogynists will call male characters who do truly terrible things complex, but female characters who, are just, I don't know, annoying sometimes, sometimes that's enough, they'll call them unlikable. And if a female character does something about as bad as a male complex character, they'll say, oh, she's completely unlikable. They shouldn't have done this. She's a bad role model. Suddenly she has to be a good role model. And then when she is a good role model, they'll say, she's boring. Make up your fucking minds. Never try to like, don't try to reason. Don't try. Let's see. Don't. Shit. Yeah, try to talk them out of their bigotry, but don't try to, as long as they're bigoted, they're not going to, yeah. If they're not open to getting out of being bigoted, then you're not really gonna reach them. Like, if you engage in a public debate, maybe you can embarrass them, and that might have some impact, but sadly, a lot of the time it doesn't. But yeah, I really appreciated how complex of a character Anna got to be. Yeah, sometimes the things she does are, not ideal. But this is a progressive channel. We support women's rights and women's wrongs. And she's just so fucking awesome. I can't get, like, she's one of the main things I'm going to miss about watching this show. Her, like, snarkastic remarks and a little, yeah. And there is a reason for it. She had a terrible childhood, as did Damon, and they're coping in different ways. Let's see. I feel bad not talking more about characters, but I just don't. I want you to get to know them on your own. There were characters on this show that I didn't realize at first were gonna be like a big deal. And I'm really glad that I didn't realize until they were that. I think that pretty well brings us to... So I gotta talk about, yeah, the use of superpowers is very creative, and there's the right amount. And it's, again, one of those things, they don't have the biggest budget, but the stuff that, the superpowers include, I don't want to say... I'm not going to give away if it's the only ones, but they include pyrokinesis and telekinesis. And those are not that expensive necessarily, because a lot of the time it's wire gags, you know, like someone will move an object across the room, and yeah, like they have the object on wires. That's not impossible for a show that's not got the biggest budget. And at least some of the pyrokinesis, they actually just have like, you know, because they can do that on movie sets. They can just start a safe fire, and yeah, you know, they'll act like, oh, you know, that was set by that character. And yeah, sometimes it does require CG, and I pretty much already said everything I have about that. But yes, I was very happy with the use of superpowers. And also, you know, I already mentioned that it doesn't have a huge amount of action scenes. You know, the superpowers I mentioned also work really well for it being horror. Like, don't get me wrong, telekinesis can work extremely well for action. Just watch Push. But yeah, it can also be scary to see objects moving and see a fire start. Just, you know, like there are a number of different stories across multiple mediums where someone is able to do one or both of these things, and a bunch of them are horror stories, you know, for good reason. It's a fascinating thing, and also just, yeah. Right, I guess I'll just briefly note. So the tease for season 2 happens, I would say, the last 2 minutes before the end credits of the very last episode. If you stop there, then you won't, you know, be wondering, oh, what could have been. Yeah, I think that pretty well covers. I also really appreciated the. Oh wait, no, yeah, never mind. I actually did talk about that already. Well, in that case, all there is left is to update the overall ranking. So, yeah, I have the yeah. Let's see. I think it's probably yes. So I have ranked every single of the let's see. I guess that does. Okay, yes. I've ranked all of the MCU and adjacent shows that are pre-Disney Plus, I mean. And yeah, I think it's probably there. There we go. Yes. So, I love all of them except Inhumans. The rest of them are amazing. I'm ranking how much I love them, not whether or not I love them all. So, the overall season, worst to best. We're going to speed run this because there's so many by now. Inhumans, Iron Fist Season 1, Daredevil Season 2, Defenders. Oh, god damn it. I forget what it's called. Agent Carter, that's it. Season 1 and then 2. Cloak and Dagger, Season 1 and then 2. The Punisher, Season 1, then Season 2. Helstrom, Iron Fist Season 2. The Gifted, Season 1, then 2. Legion, Season 1, 2, then 3. Daredevil Season 3. Luke Cage Season 2. Luke Cage Season 1. Daredevil Season 1. Jessica Jones Season 3. Jessica Jones Season 2. Jessica Jones Season 1. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Seasons 1 through 7 in that order. And the season finale, worst to best. Inhumans, Iron Fist Season 1. Daredevil Season 2. The Defenders. Agent Carter Season 1 and 2. Cloak and Dagger Season 1 and 2. Punisher Season 1 then 2. Helstrom, Iron Fist Season 2. The Gifted Season 1 then 2. Legion Season 1, 2, 3. Daredevil Season 3. Luke Cage Season 2. Luke Cage Season 1. Daredevil Season 1. Jessica Jones Season 3. Jessica Jones Season 2. Jessica Jones Season 1. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1 through 7. And the season opener, worst to best. Inhumans, Iron Fist Season 1. Daredevil Season 2. Defenders, Helstrom. Agent Carter Season 1 and 2, Cloak and Dagger Season 1 and 2, Punisher Season 1 and 2, Iron Fist Season 2, The Gifted Season 1 and 2, Legion Season 1, 2, 3, Daredevil Season 3, Luke Cage Season 2, Luke Cage Season 1, Daredevil Season 1, Jessica Jones Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 2, Jessica Jones Season 1, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1 through 7. And yeah, I rate this 8 incredibly compelling explorations of complex issues through a fucked up family unit that, you know, yeah, are understandably also very fucked up. Did I mention the mom's possessed? Out of 10.